صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. أما بعد، قال تبارك وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال تبارك وتعالى أيضا: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Alhamdulillah, my respected brothers, elders and sisters, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessings upon us. The blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not just things that we have, but there are things that we don't have also. Every single situation that we are put in, regardless if it's from our perception, good or bad, it is from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the sooner that we recognize that, the more peace and tranquility that we'll have in our life. Otherwise, all we'll be doing is chasing things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us is not good for you, that's why you don't have it. And the more we chase it, even when we achieve it, we're going to be in distress. Because it was never there to benefit us. And it's really the path there that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just, if we're content, that path to the end to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be peace and tranquil. Otherwise it will just be nothing but filled with headaches and stress, leading to so many other problems. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, first of all, before even stating about the sustenance, He says, وَيَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers those who believe and those who do righteous deeds. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the ayah, a believer reads this ayah and says, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers, okay, well, I'm going to call. Oh, Ya Allah, I want this, and I want that, and I want that. And we start asking. And for that simple act, we get a lot of reward for it because we're making a personal relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our misinterpretation of the ayah, if we just stop at that ayah and don't read on, we'll think, instead of looking at the act and saying that I need to be praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to develop this relationship, we're going to be looking at the results saying, when am I going to get what I asked for? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَزِيدُهُم مِّن فَضْلِهِ. After He says He's going to increase them from His virtue. And as for those who are ungrateful for these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْكَافِرُونَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. Kafirun could be disbelievers who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the other definition could also be ungrateful, those who are ungrateful. And one of the biggest ungratefulness that someone can have is not recognizing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. But even for us, we can be believers, but we can become ungrateful if we're not careful. That we're not grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give us what we wanted. We're not, and then we start to become ungrateful for those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did give us. We don't even notice it. And that's the trick from shaitan, that how can he make us ungrateful? وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. I'll come from all sides, that they don't become grateful to you. Because the opposite of shakirin is kafir in this situation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us know that this is not just haphazardness. This is not one of us trying to plan out an event, one of us trying to plan out something or plan out our life where we have to make do with what we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not that way. Everything is perfect in every single way and accomplished exactly the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it. So He says, وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just made the sustenance abundance for everyone just got exactly what they wanted, everyone was rich, everyone got all their wishes exactly the way they wanted in this life, لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. They would transgress in this world. You look at it, only a fraction of the people right now, they're pretty much the wealthiest of the wealthiest around the world. And you can just see how much corruption is spread just from that many becoming wealthy. Obviously, there's a lot of wealthy that are righteous as well. But the type of corruption and the type of ideas and the type of structure that's developed from the rich by instead of giving back to make the poor and really help them with some of their problems and their stress that they're going through, they add to it by making them even poorer, creating systems that takes more from them instead of giving back. Transgressing means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you everything that you want and then say, okay, but don't forget, you have to do this. Transgressing is you neglect everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. So a boss, you work for a job, they give you all the benefits you need, you're going on a trip for a business, and they give you the expenses, here's the card, business card, spend, do whatever you want. Make sure you go to this meeting and take care of this sale. That's all I want from you. No questions asked about everything else that you spend, the hotel, the money, the food that you buy for yourself, no questions asked. And imagine this person takes the card, goes on the trip, has a nice time, but doesn't go to the meeting. This is this life. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, what we need to succeed. And He said, here you go, here's the responsibilities. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us all have every single situation where we're all rich, then all these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we would just leave. And we would think of, well, even if we have everything that we want, we would think, well, wait, how come this person has a little bit more than me? And I've used this example many times, that even people on the top 10 wealthiest Forbes list, a person complaining, why am I number 9? I should be number 8 or number 6. They didn't take into account such and such wealth that I have. This is the stress that they're going through. So, to be grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept us in the situation that we're in, this will actually lead to a life of tranquility and a life to go closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you never know. You could be Yusuf alayhi salam in a well as a slave today and be a king tomorrow. You have no idea what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for you. You could be a king today, or in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, Zulaykha, she was a queen, she became a beggar at the end. Ultimately returning back to Yusuf alayhi salam and becoming a queen. But for that situation, it can always get flipped around. But it's not getting flipped around because once we're getting punished and then we're getting rewarded. It's getting flipped around because if we pass one test, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put us in a different situation and see if we can pass that test. But whatever situation that we're in, we have to understand there's infinite wisdom behind the situation that we're in right now. Whether it's because of our sickness that we have, it could be because of our situation financially, whatever problems that we're going through, family problems, we try to solve it. And there's so many ways out of it through the Quran and Sunnah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكِنْ يُنَزِّلُ بِقَدَرٍ مَا يَشَاءُ. Rather than just giving everything to everyone, He brings it down with certain amounts for every individual. Perfectly set for everyone to succeed and get 100% score before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and every single person is put in that situation that they can succeed. We choose whether we want to succeed or not, or fulfill that potential, or get lazy or relax at certain times. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the qadr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether you want to say it's destiny or amount, it's perfectly planned out for every individual. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَفْتَ إِنَّهُ بِعِبَادِهِ خَبِيرٌ بَصِيرٌ. If anyone knows that situation or knows that amount that we want or that we need, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We go in front of a job and we're in the interview and it's the time to figure out the salary. We're going to calculate a few situations. Okay, I want to get a house, I want to get a car, I need this. Okay, I want at least this much so that I can be living comfortably. Not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if we're going to get, all of a sudden someone gets sick, there's going to be another family member, a baby being born into our family, not knowing any of these situations. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, both our past, our present, our future, everything is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He set that amount. Our personalities, what's in our heart, what's in our desires. People's desires differ. differ from person to person. All of that infinite knowledge there, that Khabir, Al-Khabir, knowing everything, and Basir, watching every single thing that we do, has set that amount for us. For a believer, these kind of situations, this is what makes them feel content. That they don't have to stress. This doesn't mean that, again, a believer doesn't get relaxed and says, oh, okay, then if that's the case, I'm just going to sit down and wait for the sustenance to come. We don't obviously take the opposite extreme as well. We do our best, we strive, but the thing that's going to feel the stress is just our physical bodies. Our mentalities and our hearts are not going to go through that stress for these things. We will tire ourselves out, work out, succeed, stay up late nights, getting good grades on tests. But mentally and in our hearts, we're relaxed. We're not stressed out. We're not depressed. Because we know even if I get an F on this test, but I tried my best, even though I didn't get this job, even though I planned perfectly, I know it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that made it happen the way it happened. I studied everything, whatever I didn't study, a few things happened to come up on the test. That's a lesson for us. I didn't get this job, we don't know who's in that job. People have complained so many different things about co-workers, about other people, purposely trying to mess up their job, trying to get them kicked out. We don't know who works there, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is not a good place for you. And there's another one. And many brothers have come to me, told me that this situation did happen to them, and they were not given that job, their visas were not approved, they had to go back to their home country, ultimately getting a better visa, or the same visa, worker visa, but to a better company with better pay, and coming back and living comfortably again. The plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect and there for every single one of us to show our potential to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to show that, this is not a thing like, for example, if I want to help out 100 people, I have to look at my bank account and say, okay, you know what? I want to help out 100, I have to divide it for this much. And I tell them, listen, I'm sorry, I can't give you all what you wanted. I have to give you a little bit because I have to divide it between so many people. When we give our allowances to our kids, when we go help out people, when we plan to give sadaqah, we sort of take these things into consideration. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is counting His treasures and He has to make sure it reaches everyone. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي يُنَزِّلُ الْغَيْثَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي يُنَزِّلُ الْغَيْثَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا قَنَطُوا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the one that brings down the rain. And there's nothing more abundant than the rain. And so there's no discrimination when the rain comes down. Every single farmer, every single person takes that benefit. Obviously today we're in a more industrial world, we hate the rain. We don't pay attention to what benefits the rain gives us, whether it's drought or the horrors that come without rain. We sort of ignore that fact. Oh, we can't go to the beach, and then that's what is in our mind. But rain is one of the sources for our sustenance. Whether it's water, giving us plants in the farm, it lowers the prices if it's there. Otherwise, we go to the grocery store, it's more expensive. All we do is complain, oh, this store sucks, I want to go to a different store because the prices are... No, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala restricted the rain from us that season. But the way you see that the rain comes down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it in abundance. So there is no shortage of treasures over here. It's what you need, what I need, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set for us so that we can succeed. Now, also to just understand the grand scheme of things, that sometimes our ego comes into play, and as human beings we just think we're on top of everything, it's only us. And even you take that even to a lower scale, like every individual all of a sudden thinks the world revolves around them. Whether it's in traffic, why is this person getting in front of me, this. Everyone, we all think that it's me, move out of my way, I need to go somewhere fast. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَثَّ مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. It's not just you. The creation of the skies and the earth and all the animals that are therein that goes, human beings, animals, fishes, everything that exists, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of all of it. All of this is from His signs. Now when it comes to signs also, there's another aspect that every time we see a sign cannot be recognized unless you have intellect. And you understand that sign. If you don't speak a certain language and you go to a different country and there are signs to tell you which way to go, you're going to be lost. Even if it's a traffic sign, you could go past the speed limit if it's in a language that you don't know. Or you don't even know that that's the speed limit. So signs require intellect for us to understand, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever He gives us these signs, it should right away go into our intellect. And right after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these signs, He says, وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَيَعْفُو عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. Whatever befalls you, it is because of what your hands have earned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives a lot. We don't treat this again as something just spiritual. Put our intellect behind it. There's cause and effect happening constantly around us. But sometimes we just sort of just push it away and just leave it to the spiritual realm. For example, something happens to me, all of a sudden I say, oh, so-and-so, I think they evil-eyed me. Something happens to another person, oh, I think somebody's making a bad dua against me. And these kinds of things sort of go in our minds. Not looking at, wait a minute, what about our intellect? We use our intellect everywhere else. Why over here do we stop using it? Every single situation, every single ayah, every single sign of the Day of Judgment, we're causing it. We're the cause. Our actions and our lifestyles are the cause for those things. If our children are not speaking to us and closer to their friends than their parents, we cause that. If the daughter is making the mom into a slave, treating her as a slave, which is a sign of the Day of Judgment, we cause that. If there's fires in the sky and people waging war all over the world, we're causing that. Not as individuals, maybe as individuals we're not doing it, but as a society. And not just this society, but all around the world. Now there's a lot of problems that, if we look at it, it's not our fault. It's not to blame any individuals, or if we look at overseas, there's so many of our brothers and sisters right now going through so much oppression. We can't say, oh, they caused it, that's their fault. It's not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always put situations, the Prophets ﷺ all went through these, where tyrants came and oppressed people and performed genocide, for those people who could help to stand up and help and stand in front of oppression. That's also there. But we also have to pay attention to our own lifestyle. The things that we do, they will cause the future to be the way it is. If our children are not coming to the masjid, these are things that we should pay attention to and say, maybe our lifestyle is causing it to be like that. Why is that the situation? And try to come up with solutions for it. Now it's not only that, but it's also the Prophet ﷺ to let us know that there are certain calamities that we have no control over, and it's actually an honor for that. The Prophet ﷺ said, خُصَّ الْبِلَاء بِالْأَنْبِيَاءِ, that these big problems and calamities, trials, it's been specifically for the Prophets ﷺ. It's made specific for them. ثُمَّ الْأَوْلِيَاءِ, then those friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ثُمَّ الْأَمْثَلْ فَالْأَمْثَلْ. Then the closer you are to them, the closer you resemble to them in their lifestyle, you will be tested the same way. But this testing is raising ranks and getting forgiveness. In another hadith, Ali radiallahu anhu said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave in this life, He is more honorable and more noble, more generous than to call you out on it on the Day of Judgment. If you did something that you regret and you say, Ya Allah, please forgive me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not call you out on that on the Day of Judgment. Why did you do this? That's how generous Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then says, and whatever punishment, whoever that was punished in this world in any way in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more generous than to return that punishment to them on the Day of Judgment. In other words, you get punished twice for the same thing. Either this life or the hereafter. Now, one of the scholars said this is one of the most hopeful hadith that I have, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive me. Because either I'm going to make tawbah and be forgiven for it, or I'm going to go through some calamity and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish me for it. This is understanding that every situation, whether it's good or bad in our perception, whether we have something or don't have something, it is all still from the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and requires our gratitude. Not throwing away our responsibilities or intellect, but constantly being grateful and moving from there. The Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues in the ayats. He starts talking about the greatness of the great ships that walk around, that float on the sea. And again, he says this is from his ayat, which again, if we've studied any kind of science, it shows how much intellect we need to understand that there's buoyancy, there's wind, all these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, that we can travel all around the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we can stop the wind. What are they going to do? We can destroy the ships. What are they going to do? Or we say, we'll create planes. And what happens? Yes, we can go a lot faster, but even that, there's still no 100% safety guarantee. That every single time we get in the plane, someone has to instruct us what to do in case of an emergency. That's why there's dua specifically said that when we get on a ship, when we get on a ride, we say that dua, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of us. If not, if we run into a calamity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us. But all of this, we have to stop just taking things from a spiritual side. And not only the spiritual, not completely throw out the spirituality, but also make sure that we use our intellect all across the board, not just in our dunya, but in our akhirah as well. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whatever you have in this world, فَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ, in this world, anything that you have, because that's what we ask for a lot of times, right? Whether it's safety, whether it's something materialistic, whatever it is, we ask for it. Whatever you have in this world, whatever you're going to get, what's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better. You get a better version of it. You got a nice house in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you a truly nice house in the Jannah. You got a nice car in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you a truly nice ride in the Jannah. Knowing these things, there should be never a time where we actually have a chance to complain about what we have and the things that we don't have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then, I'm not going to go over it just for the sake of time, but we should go over this. This is I'm reading from Surah Ash-Shura, started from around ayah 30, a little bit before that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then starts talking about the signs or the qualities of those people that will have the correct attitude toward these things. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, it's better and it will last longer for those people who believe and they have tawakkul, they rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he starts giving their qualities. وَالَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ الْكَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَوَاحِشَ. They abstain from the big sins. They abstain from all the obscene and immoral acts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues by listing their qualities. That أَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Look at just this is the cause and effect right here. That their quality, one of their qualities is that they consult one another in matters. We can say, I want to consult, but my community isn't there for me. Or my community doesn't get along with me. We caused that. We should have such a strong community that any person that comes and needs consultation, any one of us is ready to help in a way that we can and to our abilities. Just like qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that qadr, we try that to the best of our abilities, we help. There's so many professionals in this center. Does everybody know who's who? So that if something arises, they can at least get a referral from that person for their situation. Or is it just every single person has their own little group and that's our community? Where on Jummahs and our Eid, all those little groups get together, but throughout the other year, the other 360 days of the year, we're just to our own little groups. The Prophet ﷺ didn't have such things. There was no little groups. The only two groups that were there is Al-Muhajir wal-Ansar, the immigrants and the helpers. And on the first day, the Prophet ﷺ made them brothers. Who's gonna, you and you are brothers, you and you are brothers, you and you are brothers, and completely tried to eliminate that line. All of them were his companions. So, thinking back, going back into our own life, our own world, and everybody analyzing their own life, we should go back and see, are we truly grateful for the things that we have and the things that we don't have? And try to attain whatever we want. Keep making the du'as. Making dua doesn't mean that being content with what you don't have doesn't mean you stop making du'as because I don't need it, I'm content. Dua itself is a worship. But when we make the dua, we're establishing a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not trying to get a wish granted. And when we do that, whether we get exactly what we want or not, it's going to be given to us either in this world or on the Day of Judgment when we're going to Al-Jannah. So one way or another, we're going to get our du'as accepted, 100% guaranteed. But just our perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be correct, that we don't start being ungrateful because we didn't get exactly what we wanted. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us and to forgive us all of our shortcomings. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. أما بعد قال تبارك وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اشرح صدورنا للإسلام اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان اللهم اجعلنا من الراشدين اللهم اجعلنا من الراشدين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه ولا تكفرون أقيموا الصلاة